What if I told you that adding an EV charger could overload your 100 amp panel, triggering a major service upgrade? If you're considering an EV charger, your service might not handle it. Many people assume that empty breaker spaces mean they're good to go, but space does not equal capacity. I'll show you exactly how to check if your home can support an EV charger before you take the plunge. We have separate videos explaining load calculations in more detail coming soon. I don't want you to end up like the gentleman in the following video.
$9,500? No.
Let's get from there to here.
Hey kiddo, ready to head in?
Yeah, I was just practicing.
You were great. Let's get some dinner.
Okay.
Now Michael planned ahead and Steve didn't. Our main focus would be level 2 chargers, like Tesla's wall connector or charge point. These typically draw 12 to 48 amps at 240 volts. Even at 48 amps, Tesla's charger adds about 44 miles of range per hour of charge to your car. At 12 amps, you're looking at roughly 11 miles of range. So getting full capacity on your charger is vital. Level 1 chargers will challenge your panel a lot less, but depending on your situation, they can still be an issue. Outlets installed for chargers greater than 16 amps must be supplied by a dedicated branch circuit. And don't forget, for the purposes of EV chargers, you cannot put a 50 amp rated receptacle on a 40 amp circuit. EV charging is considered a continuous load, by definition, running for more than 3 hours at a time. The electrical code requires the 125% rule for sizing the breaker and the conductors. So a 48 amp charger needs a 60 amp breaker, and on a 100 amp service, that's a big chunk of your capacity. Your panel is not the Golden Corral, and your charger cannot grab unlimited current. Your 100 amp panel is more like a fancy restaurant where the chef sends out just enough to tease. So with level 2 chargers, there's a lot available, but they all have one thing in common. They draw the current. In most US residential setups, your breaker serves as a disconnect as long as the breaker is readily accessible and it can be locked open. If not, a separate means of disconnect may need to be provided. At the end of the day, this is at the discretion of your local AHJ. Installing plug-in style chargers is perfectly fine too. Change being they require GFCI breakers, and a lot of the time they're double protected. Plug-in style chargers can serve as a disconnecting means up to 60 amps or not exceeding 150 volts to ground. Now I recommend hardwired chargers. They usually come with GFCI protection built in, and you don't need a GFCI breaker unless the manufacturer requires it. Coupling means must be at least 18 inches from the floor indoors and 24 inches above ground level outdoors. Don't forget your label indicating the location of your disconnecting means if it's not in sight. Now, whether your panel can support an EV charger really comes down to 3 key factors. Let's break them down. First, 100 or 200 amp service size. Many 200 amp homes handle EV charging easily, but with 100, it depends more on the details. The NEC has an existing dwelling calculation for adding loads, which can help. Got an EV charger or panel upgrade quote that you're considering? Send it to ElectroHelp via email or the contact form at electrohelp.com. We could review it and its scope in a future show anonymously. Second factor, what else is running in your home? Electric heat, electric range, dryer, air conditioning? Maybe it's winter in North Dakota and your son forgot to put the lid back on the hot tub. These loads stack up fast. And here's an important detail. The NEC allows 2 load calculating types for existing dwellings. The existing dwelling calculation and a measured existing load calculation that you'll likely never use. In the existing dwelling calculation, EV chargers are assigned an 80% demand factor, probably due to the assumption that the EV charger won't perfectly overlap with other peak house loads, though the circuit itself still requires a 60 amp breaker for a 48 amp charger. Your load calculation is what determines the real limit. Gas appliances, usually fine. Mainly electric appliances, things get tight. If your appliances are electric and older, you could consider shifting to new gas appliances if your service is in good shape anyway. Taking an electric stove off the panel adds a lot of capacity alone. Now, here's something else people misunderstand. 240 volt loads draw current on both legs of the service at the same time. They do not split in half. We've got a video coming on that issue regarding one of the biggest mistakes electricians make when installing standby generators. So, if your stove is drawing 40 amps and your EV charger is pulling 48, that's about 88 amps on each leg of the service. Now, add a hair dryer drawn on one leg, and that imbalance can start pushing the limits. Electrical systems usually don't fail because of one appliance, they fail because of stacking loads. Take a 1,500 square foot home, for example, with a 12 kilowatt range and a 5.5 kilowatt dryer. This home is already at 14.8 kilowatts for the load calculation, which is 60 amps. And we haven't even added a dishwasher, water heater, an air conditioner, or that hot tub. Now, the third factor is how the EV charger is installed. Chargers can be configured at different power levels, and some chargers can automatically reduce output when the home is using a lot of electricity. This is the good news. Many 100 amp homes can still support EV charging, especially when using a power control system. These systems monitor your service in real time and automatically reduce charger output when demand gets high. For example, systems like the Imperial Load Manager, Wallbox Power Boost, Tesla Dynamic Load Management, or DCC load controllers. Their sensors monitor the service mains. If your stove and hot tub turns on and the house starts to load down your panel, the charger automatically throttles down from say 48 amps to 40, then down to 20, or even temporarily to 0 if capable. Once all the loads shut off, the charger ramps back up, so your car is still charged in the morning. For inspections, jurisdictions require ULC list PCS equipment. Sensors must be installed in the service conductors, and the system must be configured so the charger is not active when your service is drawing 80% or more of its capacity. 100 amp service, that's an 80 amp rating. So, an EV charger only runs at full power when capacity is available. With a PCS, the EV charger could technically be counted as 0 amps on the load calculation. Guessing with your expected electrical usage can get expensive. Best case, you get nuisance breaker trips. Worst case, you need a full service upgrade. Hibernating bad connections start appearing, which can cost thousands. At that point, you'd wish you just upgraded the whole service from the beginning. And that's why EV charger installs range in price. Some homes only need a breaker and some wiring, and others need an entirely new service. And that difference almost always comes down to panel capacity and home usage. So before you jump into fast charging at home, make sure your electrical system can support it. Because if you're adding that kind of load to your house, do it right. If you're unsure about your setup, visit electrohelp.com for guidance and consultation options. Subscribe for our next video and turn on notifications. I'll be covering more electrical topics that can save you time and money. So let's review your options one more time. 1. Full service upgrade from 100 to 200 amps. 2. Shift some loads from electric to gas. 3. Install level 1 or smaller level 2 charger. Or 4. Install an EV charger with a PCS to control that load dynamically. If you disagree with anything I covered, drop it in the comments. I read them all. We're always working towards the gold standard of explaining electrical systems. Thank you for watching.